Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Enlightenment Exchange. I'm so excited today. We have Sheila Glazov, author of What Color is Your Brain? John and Melanie and I have all taken the quizzes to see what color our brains are. So we are thrilled to have you here today, Sheila, and we've already been chatting and probably let some of the really good stuff um, escape already. So we're going to give this show a little extra time, I think, because
Yes.
we've already had some really interesting conversations. So, what I was hoping very first before we do anything else, so the people that are listening can just have a minute to think about their colors if they haven't done the quizzes on your website, which I did link in the show, is can you give us a really brief nutshell description of um, what each color means?
Perfect. So I'm going to do a show and tell for you.
All right.
So if you're the
Outstanding.
yellow people with the yellow part of your brain, you notice it has a right angle in there.
Hmm.
Yellow people have to be right. And they're very direct about what they do. They're very organized. They're very prepared. If they do not have a plan, they are very, very uncomfortable. Opposite of the yellow people are the orange brain people, frontal lobe, largest lobe of your brain to develop, and it usually doesn't develop till you're in your middle 20s to 30. So that executive decision making or the response that's impulsive hasn't really been trained to maybe not be so impulsive. And we say that's why children who have the orange brain, the largest lobe in their brain, when they're little, the most of them, 70% of our children are orange. That's why they need parents and teachers
Hmm.
to guide them. So next you have the green brain people, top of your lobe, it's your parietal lobe. Those are the people who like to gather the information. They are not the talkers. They're the people who process. So sometimes the blue people have a hard time with the green people because they're waiting for an answer. It's like a pregnant pause. Why aren't they saying something? Well, they're thinking before they speak because they never want to look stupid. So you have to be patient with the green people. And then last but not least are the blue people. It's your occipital lobe in the back of your brain. And the blue people are the talkers, they're the communicators. We wear our hearts on our sleeves. You know what we're thinking all the time. What you see is what you get. And we have to talk about our feelings. And so the green people process the feelings, the yellow people have to organize and make a list about their feelings. And the orange people just say, what's the problem? What's the problem? So it helps you see. And what we did talk about earlier is all these brain colors from your frontal lobe to your occipital lobe and your temporal lobes and your parietal lobe make you into a rainbow. You are a blending of all those colors. So depending on the situation, you can pull what you need out of those wonderful attributes and abilities. And what we said before is you may not be the same at home as you are at work, in your community, with your children, or in your romantic relationships. So you can change. And that's why, for me, and I was talking to you about Myers Briggs, which is so wonderful. And many of your listeners watchers have done Myers Briggs. It is the oldest, it's the mother of all the personality type indicators. However, it is a combination of 16 letters put into 4 letters. And if you have any issues with that, that makes it difficult. Plus, you are put into those letters. You don't blend or change. And for me, I wanted that also for the children. So that's where What Color Is Your Brain came from. And Princess Shayna's Invisible Visible Gift was the first book before What Color Is Your Brain.
Oh, you wrote that first?
Yes, I wrote that first.
No kidding.
Yes.
Wow, that's really interesting. I had just assumed it was the other way around.
No, I told you it's the children for me.
Yeah.
Well, I think so. One of the main reasons that I'm so fascinated and interested in this is that you have Myers Briggs, but you also have astrology, you have people who do Akashic record work, energy work. we're all given archetypes of one type or another.
Right.
And I often wondered, like, what was the point, right? You know, why is this important? Why does knowing anything about my astrology help me? What is it good for? And so the idea that what you've done is so dialed into the colors that you identify different attributes, I think really is so helpful to people, because I remember one of the first times I had a realization about this was when I was working with an astrologer, and she told, my sun sign is Libra. I've always known that. But some of the attributes of a Libra are just not me. And I was like, this doesn't make sense. And then when she told me my moon sign is Aquarius, and what that means is you want to do what you want to do when you want to do it, I was like, oh, that's it.
And you
That's
also said
it.
it didn't make sense to you.
Right.
That was your green. It did not make sense to you. And once you had the information and it was explained to you, it made sense.
Right, exactly.
Right.
So I think the importance of all of this is that when we have the understanding of why we are how we are, it gives us the opportunity not only to embrace who we are, but also to say, oh, wait a minute, this situation, I feel this. That's my green kicking in, when really what I need is my blue compassion, or whatever.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. I like
right?
that.
And it's I think a really amazing part on my quest of the last 2 or 3 years of really learning to meet people where they are, because I get it. Why don't you? Like, that has been my struggle.
That's your green. That's your
my
green.
whole life. I get it. Why don't you?
Right.
See, that brings me to one of my questions. Can people change their dominant color? Okay, because for me, I was kind of a surly, geeky, analytical programmer in my 20s and 30s, and then mid 40s or early 40s, kind of had my spiritual awakening, and my personality over maybe 2 or 3 years shifted dramatically. Compassion was just kind of a natural outpouring of that. So I kind of changed, I guess, from probably green, yellow to blue.
Yes, and that life does that to us, John.
Okay. Yes, indeed.
That as I have gotten older, I have become greener, because I found so much of my blue and being emotional was exhausting. And also those people were exhausting, and I had to learn to distance myself and be able to say, that is not a healthy decision for me. And that's what's important to know. You can change. You can pull from those wonderful attributes and abilities, because we all have them. Mm-hmm. And then life changes us as we're younger. We're going into jobs. Maybe we don't have children. Maybe we do. Maybe we have 4-legged family members. And then life changes again. You might change careers. And then sadly, we lose some of our family members. And now there's a different hierarchy in your family or with your friends. Mm-hmm. Or maybe you move to a different state. So many things can change. It's being willing to change with it. And knowing your brain colors gives you, I think, one leg up to understand why you're behaving like that. Whenever we have moved, my orange says, that's a great adventure. And I know family members and friends who have always lived in where they live now in Chicago and would never think about moving. And everybody thought we were crazy when we moved to New Jersey and when we moved to California. What are you doing? We just thought it's a grand adventure. Mm-hmm. So I pulled my orange to do that.
Right. Kind of take that forward, and it gives you the right energy to make it an enjoyable experience rather than a painful one.
And for blue people, you have so many friends. When our youngest son had his third wedding, really his second wedding, two in Brazil and then one here, the photographer said, I have never been to a wedding with so many different kinds of people. And so that's from moving, that's from the orange and doing different things to bring everybody together. And that, I think, makes life so interesting.
Yeah.
Lots
You
of
mentioned boundaries a few minutes ago. Is the boundary person, is that the green? Like, hey, you said something like, I need to step away or push this away a little bit. That's not a healthy decision for me to make. That's the green coming out?
That's green, but I think all of us can do that, John. All of us need to do that. We see that now. You see that with families and friends and politics, and people not see certain people, or they don't talk to them anymore, or whatever it might be. They have said that's not a healthy decision for me, no matter what your brain color is.
Okay. All right. So yeah, it's not like we're bound to that. There's things we need to do outside of that.
Right. And to make the effort to grow, and even with technology and our computers. And I mean, I was so glad that I had done an interview on StreamYard before, because I knew what to do. I needed to go to Chrome and do this and this, whatever. So just learning those new things, the green part of me says, that's wonderful.
Yeah. Yep. I guess I do have some elements of green because I like to, dig into that stuff and really gather information.
You're a reader, John.
True.
Yes. Yep. Readers gathering knowledge, and having
constantly
all the information is very, very green.
Got it. Okay, that's helpful. Yeah, that helps me realize I'm not 100% blue.
No. Again, you're that rainbow, and if you look at a rainbow, you'll see that one color blends into the next. It's not definitive, and I love that. So you don't have to be yellow all the time, or green or orange or blue. You can blend that, and that enhances your life. I think that's the gift you get, all the different kinds of people you have in your life.
Yeah.
So the other thing Angie and I talked about to help your people who are watching, listening, to think of this as if you're at an intersection. Remember that, Angie?
Mm-hmm.
And so tomorrow is 4th of July. I mean, we know over the weekend it was also 4th of July, but imagine that there's a event for 4th of July tomorrow with family or friends or parade. And then that's in the middle of the intersection. You have a yellow person, a green, an orange, and a blue standing on each corner of the intersection. Now, each of those people are wearing a backpack. What I say to people is, in your backpack is your backstory. Now, you know your backstory, but the people on the other corner may have no idea of what's in your backpack. And sometimes it takes an experience to happen, and you say, oh, that is in my backpack. I remember that when I was a kid, or my first job, whatever it is. And it expands your backpack. You carry so much in your backpack. And what's so interesting is once we get to know people and understand them, we can better understand what might be in their backpack. And then they're willing to share what's in that backpack with you, because they're feeling more comfortable about that. And you understand, 4th of July. So the yellow people already made a list of what they're doing and what they're cooking and what they're bringing. And the blue people are thinking, oh my goodness, who's going to be there? That's wonderful. And the orange people are thinking about how much fun. And then the green people are thinking, well, maybe I'll just find a quiet spot. But
as Melanie said a minute ago,
all of those perspectives are really fine, because I always say to people, it's whatever your perspective is, as long as if you're not abusing the situation and bully behavior with your brain colors, because that happens with people also with their brain colors. So
sure.
The yellow people tell the would, shoulds, and have tos, and you have to do that. And the green people don't say anything. They're like the movie The Big Chill, and they make you feel so uncomfortable. And the blue people, many times, they do passive aggressive. And sadly, the orange people will be physical. They'll stomp their feet, they'll throw something, they'll break something. And that's not always, those four behaviors are not always the most healthy behavior to have.
I think that's why balance is really important. And because I mean, don't tell me I should do something. Don't tell me I'm not doing it. I don't care I don't care who you are. Don't tell me, you know what you should do, because I'm not going to do it. Even if it's something I want to do, I'm not going to do it because you told me I should do it. Not happening. Like,
that's shoulds, the woulds, and the have tos.
Cannot deal with it.
And that's
once you have the information, though, Angie, then it's like, actually, you know what? I am going to do that. I'm just not going to tell them.
Or else you say to them, I know you think I should do that. However, I need to do it in a way that's healthier for me. And when I can do that, and it's a better time for me. And then
honestly, what I've noticed lately is that I'm saying, I'm telling you this story, whatever it may be, not because I want you to fix anything.
Right.
I'm telling you this because I need to verbalize it. I need to get it out there. I need to talk it through for myself. I don't need your suggestions. I appreciate that you want to help me fix this, but I just need to speak it through so I can figure out how to fix it for myself.
Right. And that's your blue. You need to talk it through, but your green needs to do it on your own terms.
Absolutely. 100%.
And the blue people will do it because they don't want to upset somebody. That's, you know, the pleasers, you know, that the little girls
a problem.
in the 50s being the pleasers and the good girls. That was really very difficult.
Oh, interesting. I hadn't connected that to history.
Oh, of course. And then you have the yellow kids, and wow, they were a problem. That kid was always a problem. No, they just had a different way of learning or living their life or things they had interest in. And so you look at all that and you realize, and the green children who just didn't really want to participate, and even now the adults who really don't want to participate, it's not that they don't like you. It has nothing to do with you. It only has to do with them.
Right.
If you would make the effort to understand them, you could have a much healthier relationship with them.
And as it relates to kids, because I was constantly in arguments with the teachers of my youngest son, because he learned very differently, and they just were so set in their ways and so set in their curriculum. And I would say to him, you have the right answer. I'm okay with that. I don't really care what they say.
And that's as an educator, that's what hurts my heart, because the yellow system of education really hasn't changed very much. And here are the rules. This is how it has to be done. And now there are even more rules. Now there's even more restrictions. Now they're really telling you how to teach. And the diversity of our children is so important, especially after coming through COVID. Our Brazilians live with us through part of COVID because they were moving from their house. So my grandchildren were in the house with us. And that was really very, very difficult for them. And it was good that we all knew our brain colors. And that made it easier under a very difficult situation. But our education system, sadly, Angie, they're still teaching the way your son was taught.
Oh, absolutely. And so that was in he was born in 1987. So that was through the 90s. So that was when I really noticed that they wanted to slap those alphabets on the kids and give them, you know, Ritalin or you know, whatever, ADHD. The kid is not ADHD. I'm sorry to know now. He's bored.
Right. I had that with our eldest son.
He's highly intelligent and he was bored. And so when I hear, friends talking about their grandchildren or whatever in school, and oh, well, he's struggling and this and that. Stop. Pay attention to this child, because I'm here to tell you everything you're telling me I recognize about my children.
Yeah.
Everything you tell me he can do, I recognize about my children. And neither one of them needed that label. Neither one of them needed that intervention.
Yeah,
And so it's
very hard. But the thing is, it's really good. We had that with our eldest son, and what is really good, and that was the 70s, that then Joshua learned about himself, and then he was able to speak up for himself, and that made a really big difference. But that was a level of maturity. And also, we were living in a small town in California, Mammoth Lakes, California, in a ski resort, very different than living in Highland Park, Illinois.
Oh, most definitely.
So I think also the environment, I always tell people, you have to look at an ideal environment. Like, I'm talking to you from my 3-season porch. I get to look out on my pollinator gardens and the rest of my gardens and the bird feeders. And that, as a blue person, an ideal environment for a blue person is nature. We love being in nature, surrounded by colors and nature. And opposite of the green people, give them the resources. Green people need their resources, and they need their resources in their ideal environment to work properly. They get really upset if their technology is not working right. That's not good for them. The yellow people, their environment has to be orderly. Everything must have its place. There can't be a mess anywhere. And the orange people,
they're the ones making the mess, right?
Yeah, I could have called you from my bedroom if I was orange in my pajamas. That's really okay. And if you understand that about people, you can create an environment for people to thrive in if the environment nurtures their brain color. I read this to Angie. So for many years, I did a push-in program, an enrichment program for a 5th grade class in Arlington Heights. The teacher had been in a teacher, What Color Is Your Brain program that I had done. And so I'd come into her classroom all the time. And the school bought Princess Shayna books, and it was wonderful. So I was doing a chapter, and in the chapter, it's the Princess Shayna is born on the 2nd day of the 2nd month of the new year, which is the day I was born and my grandson was born. So I come to class, and this little boy sends me this letter, which tells you all about the children. It says, "Dear Sheila, before you open this up, I want you to know how much of an author you mean to me. You are an author who brightened my path, who let me think, who made me strong, and who let me be the way I am. Thank you, Max." That letter was not about me. And I said, "Max, thank you. It has nothing to do with me. It has to do with you and what you learned about your praiseworthy gifts and what village you live in, because you live in the green village, but your family lives in the orange village." And what a difference, this child. It was just, now this is an 11-year-old 5th grader. So Angie and I had said that, if children can have this foundation when they're young, they really have something to build upon, because life is difficult. I remember my granddaughter talking about the mean girls at school. And then my grandson.
Can you talk a little bit more about that, the bullying and the...
Yes.
Because that is on your website, and I want to hear it firsthand.
What's really important is that you have to recognize the bully behavior first. Some people don't recognize that they're being bullied. And then you have to redirect that bully behavior, so then you can get on in your life and not have that bully bullying you anymore. And it's very different in fact, it's on my website, and I've also blogged about it. It's in the book. And in fact, it's in the healthcare book, because I learned that's from one of the nurses that she said, I thought this was amazing, that the older nurses were bullying the younger nurses. So the veteran nurses were bullying the younger.
I can see that.
And
Yeah.
I thought,
Same as in other corporate situations.
right. So it happens all over, John. Our youngest grandson plays baseball, and the Glazov family is not a large family. So I said to Jonah, "You're going to grow. Your dad didn't grow till he was 14 years old, Jonah. You'll grow." Now he's like a weed. But he said, "Oh, Mimi, the boys are bullies too, not just the mean girls."
Yep.
And social media, it's pervasive, and our society, um, its moral compass has changed, and our children see that. So we have to give them a good foundation and acknowledge them. I always talk about their praiseworthy gifts, so they know what's praiseworthy about themselves. Very important, because they don't always know that. And to me, it's your self-esteem. It's an inside job. So when they discover what village they live in, go, wow, I have those attributes.
Mhm.
And I think that's what's such a gift, is to teach them that when they're young. And then with adults, they're much healthier adults.
I have a 10-year-old son, so the book is right exactly at the right time for him. So
Yeah. And when you read the book, John, when you read the book, the most important thing is you reread a chapter, but then when you're finished, there's a gift giver's guide in the back
Ooh,
of the book.
okay.
At the end of each chapter, it tells you to go to the page of the gift giver's guide, and there's a little summary of the chapter, and there are 2 questions like, what does your kingdom of kindness look like? Have you ever exclaimed Rimziavio? And then the kids always want to know what Rimziavio is. And so I always tell them, when you're trying to solve a problem, and when I would teach creative problem solving, you have to look at from a different direction and see things backwards, forwards, and in different directions. And when I was writing the story, I called my mother and I said to her, "Mom, what do you think of this word, Rimziavio?" She said, "Oh my gosh, Sheila, it's so lyrical. What does it mean?" I said, "It's Oy vey Izmir backwards."
Perfect.
Oy vey Izmir means, oh, woe is me.
Yep.
So if you turn it around and you discover an answer, you don't have that feeling of, oh, woe is me. Well, the kids are great with Rimziavio. In fact, that's one of the
cool.
songs we've talked about for the musical at the Row.
Oh,
Definitely
cool.
going to have a Rimziavio song because it's so much fun to say.
Yeah.
And so I think that the bully behavior, it's very difficult, but once the children understand who they are, they can redirect and deal with the bully behavior better
Okay.
because they know
This will help.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're
That's
welcome.
cool.
That's a
great.
concern, John. I understand that. That's a concern.
Yep.
Any
Yeah.
more questions? Should I tell you about one of my favorite things?
Yes,
We'd
please
love
do.
to hear about one of your favorite things.
It is wet paint. So when you know your brain color, orange, yellow, green, or blue, and you're not feeling 100%, and people say to you, as they always do, "What's the matter? What's wrong? You don't seem like yourself. Tell me what's bothering you." And you're saying,
Stop.
"Okay, stop. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to talk about it." So my college roommate's mother found this wonderful poem in the Cleveland Plain Dealer and shared it with us. And it's called Wet Paint. And I said, "Oh my God, Bubby, that's fabulous. When you aren't feeling like you want to talk, all you have to do is say, 'I'm blue wet paint.' And that tells the other person, that's my brain color. I don't want to talk. Don't touch. Let me dry. Leave me alone." Just like paint on
Cool.
a couch or a wet, or on a bench or chair. Just let it be. Don't touch. Leave me alone. And it's a nice way of saying it instead of "leave me alone. I don't want to talk. You're really hassling me." So I love the wet paint. I always make sure I tell that to people in my workshops or when I'm speaking to them because it alleviates a lot of problems and hassles.
Do you have like families that have all kind of read the book? They all know their colors and they use that just like with, okay, that's That's pretty
we,
cool.
we speak it. If you are part of my family or friends, well, Angie knows I talk about it in yoga.
Okay.
It's a non-judgmental language to explain your feelings and your thoughts. And I think that's so important because we don't want people to tolerate us. And I know people talk about teaching tolerance, but tolerance means just putting up with someone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want people just to put up with me. I want them to accept me for who I am and what I value. That may not be what they value, but they'll learn to understand what I value.
See, that's it right there, isn't it? It's learning to accept and appreciate a person for what they are and what they value, regardless of whether or not it's the same as what you are and what you value.
As long as it's not abusive.
Well, right.
That's all. It's always the caveat because people cannot. The kids sometimes would say that in class. Well, I did it just because I'm orange. No, you can't hit the other child during PE just because you're orange and you're frustrated. That doesn't work.
No, right.
So if we understand how to use it, like anything, it's a tool.
Yeah.
That you have in your tool bag. We all have lots of tools in our tool bags. None of us are teenagers. We've collected a lot of tools. And this is just one more tool in your tool bag.
Yep. Angie mentioned astrology at the beginning. Have you ever looked through like the astrological symbols and kind of tried to map the colors a little bit? I think that'd be a fun exercise.
People have asked me that, and I did do that a long time ago, but then I found people got confused.
Oh, okay. Right. Mixing two systems.
The MBTI and the letters. Well, wait a minute. What are the attributes of my signs? But what am I when I'm blue? And then
okay, I can see that. You're mixing two things together.
So and it's nice to blend them and talk about them, and that would be a fun thing to do. But I think in the world we're living now, when so much information is being thrown at people, we have to keep it really simple, and that's what I love about my program and my books. It's really simple. I don't need to add something complicated to your life.
Yeah,
and that. So this is where I'm going with this. When I speak to the astrologer, she's been on the show, I very often have to say, okay, now can you tell me that in English, please? Because astrology is complicated. But what I wonder is if green, blue, orange, and yellow don't translate better to numerology or life path numbers, because there are only 9 of them. So maybe somebody that's interested in numerology may find some.
I think
may find some. See, I believe that you can take all the tools in your box and you can combine them in a way that works for you, to create something that really helps you. So I love that this is another one of those tools and a simple one to learn. Not only that, but if I'm correct, you teach teachers how to teach this, right? Is that something you're working on?
Oh, yeah, they're doing a train the trainer program because, I used to go into schools all the time, but since COVID, you can't anymore. So that's why I'm so thrilled about the musical. And I think what I also want to tell you is when we talk about the 4 colors, that everybody has a comfort color. Like John and I were saying, we're blue.
Yep.
And we understand that blue. And then we have a blending color, and that comes next. And that, for me, that's my yellow of being organized and getting everything done before this interview. I just, had all my papers done and had everything listed out and whatever, and made sure I was ready.
All the pencils lined up, right?
Yes, and they were colorful pencils. And the yellow, and then as I've gotten older, my green is now my convertible color, which can go up or down. My last color is my orange, or my shadowed color. That's like having a cloud over you all the time that makes you uncomfortable. It's not a good place to be. So I've seen my orange move down and my green move up.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can do that with those 4 ways of looking at your brain colors. And I like that you can change them, you can move them. And again, depending on the situation, you can also do that. So if we think about your comfort color, your blending color, your convertible color, and then your shadowed color, then you recognize that different behavior for yourself.
Yeah, I didn't realize those other names actually make a lot of sense, for the whole rainbow that you talked about earlier. You have elements of each of them,
Right.
and they have roles almost.
Well, I think also, so you live in Grand Rapids. Are you familiar with Midland, Michigan?
Oh,
Tom?
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Nice
So,
botanical gardens out there.
right. I've been there. And I used to teach at the Creativity Center, the Dow Center.
The Dow Center. Yeah, that's
Wonderful. And so we used to walk the railroad tracks that the trains were no longer on into town. And we would have to cross the Tridge that's in Midland.
Yep.
And so I said, what color is your brain? I have a picture of it in my programs. I show the Tridge because you can use what color is your brain in your home, in your school or community, and in your workplace. So it covers all three places. Oh, but you might be different in all those places.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Your Tridge. So if you understand that, that is a perfect visual for people also to understand that that personality can branch out and be other things.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's much more fun than thinking you're just
right, an INTJ.
Right. The
Right.
water, and that's all you can be.
Yep.
So for blue people and our creativity, that makes blue people crazy.
Indeed.
And what else I want to tell you?
Melanie, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I do. I took almost all of the quizzes on your website, and mostly I'm blue and orange, except for parenting. I'm yellow, which seems almost the opposite. Right? So, like, I don't know, how can I use that information? Like, what are some of the negative characteristics, I guess, of the yellow that I would need to pay attention to when I'm parenting?
Well, I think that when you're parenting and you're yellow, and I understand that, I had to be yellow many times with our children. Well,
Melanie does have like 100 kids.
I do. I mean, 6.
6, 100, it's the same.
And those are 6 blessings that are all different personality types. And so that's why you see yourself as yellow, because it's like herding cats. You have all those personality types, and you're trying to go someplace, you're trying to get dinner ready, they're doing homework. And so you need to have that ability to organize your thoughts and get things done, because if you just went to your orange, oh my gosh, it would be helter-skelter, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think if I only had one, I would be much more orange and blue, but it's, I'm running a sinking ship. So,
and I think it also depends on the person who's parenting with you. If you have a person,
there's no one, it's just me.
So it's you. And so you are quote unquote, as one little boy said in 5th grade, he's rependable. And I said, Eric, what does that mean? He said, reading Princess Shana and finding out what village we live in, I discovered I'm rependable. I said, really? He said, I'm responsible, I'm respectful, I'm accountable, and I'm dependable.
Oh, good.
Oh, I love that.
I always give Eric attribution when I'm talking about him and in the books, because I hope someday he finds me or I find him, because that is wonderful. He's rependable. And so that's what you have to do with your 6 children. You have to be rependable, Melanie. And that's what yellow people do that. And then the yellow people look at the orange people. Once I was doing a program with salespeople and the administrative assistants, and they were talking about the orange people. And somebody said, well, I think they're compulsive. And another person said, well, I think they're impulsive. And somebody said, I think they're repulsive.
Ooh,
that was a big ouch. And I said, there's a perfect example of the yellow people looking at the orange sales people. And the administrative assistants wanted things done, and then the orange salespeople would show up at the last minute with a contract that needed to be worked on. So,
And then they'd nail it with a huge sale, and everyone would be like, well, they're bringing in sales. I guess they just do what they do.
right, exactly, John. Exactly. And I think that that's always so interesting. And I'll switch gears with you because one of the things Angie and I talked about was, what do you do for fun? And I said, that's always fascinating in my workshops to ask people, well, what do you do for fun? So looking at the four of us, tell me what you do for fun, John. What do you do for fun?
I write and play music.
Ah, what do you play?
So I have 10 years of piano experience that I'm trying to get back in my fingers. I also play trumpet. I've played that for a number of years. I don't play as much. I play auto harp, and I just started learning bass guitar, and I'm absolutely loving every second of it.
Wow. And listen to the word he used. I'm loving it. That's a blue person.
Indeed.
Okay,
That's-
Melanie, what do you do for fun?
I never have time for fun, but if I had time, I love gardening and going for walks in nature, because we have like nature trails, and I go for walks when I can.
There's your blue.
Mhm.
Yeah, just sitting out on my deck, just because I'm surrounded by nature. I just love it. It fills me up so much.
I too. I totally understand that, except when I
I
have
would love your deck
it,
or your lanai, whatever the room is.
the three-season porch that
Yep.
leads to it.
Yeah.
But we had a turkey vulture flying over the weekend. And
Mhm.
that nature was really not too beautiful. That was really,
Yeah, no, it's not.
it was really unusual. So Angie, what do you do for fun, my friend?
That's really interesting. An interesting question. Like, what do I do for fun? I mean,
What's your
I do
shows
this.
you watch?
I do this show. This is fun. TV. Some TV is fun, like The Traders. That's fun. But like actual fun.
Well, you go swimming every day.
I don't. Well, I walk, but I don't do it every day lately because of the weather. But
True.
I mean, I love that. I love being in the water. I don't know if I would call it fun.
Do you consider our yoga class fun?
No,
It's for your good health.
I enjoy it. I love it, especially the first Monday of the month when we do restorative yoga.
Right.
But actual fun, like fun, I don't know. I don't know that I can actually answer that. Like,
That sounds
What?
like a green answer.
right? Well, what would I do? Yeah,
Well, then you should think about it. That's your green. So the
well, I mean, I do. There are things that give me joy,
okay,
but to me, joy and fun are different.
they can be.
You know, like what gives me joy? What gives me joy? Watching my kid walk up the driveway from across the street. That gives me joy. Being in the water when I can get out in the pool. That gives me joy. But I don't call joy fun, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Isn't that weird?
No, it's not weird. It's totally green. It's perfect. It's perfect. You're a perfect example. So I always love this in workshops because then we go around the room and people see who's there and they stand up and say, I'm a tap dancer. I'm a gourmet chef. It's amazing the things that people do for fun.
Yep.
I tell people that I'm a hooker and they go, what? I said, I crochet.
You crochet.
Yeah, right.
I do that too. I knit and crochet.
And so that's fun and enjoyable. And then I put a slide on the slide, and here you hear this very loud sound coming, and then you see a picture of my husband and I on our ultra bagger Harley.
Oh, wow.
Now
Right.
that
See, now
would be
that's
fun.
interesting. So that was shocking. And so I said to people, so you can't tell by looking at people who they are and what they do for fun. I said,
Oh, interesting.
I'm a hog Harley mama, and I ride on the back of a bagger in black leather, and I'm a biker bubby. And then everybody laughed.
Well, okay, that would be fun. Only I would never get on the back of the bike that my husband was driving unless it was a three-wheeler. And he won't do a three-wheeler.
There are
So
lots of three-wheelers.
out.
Those are cool though.
I think, it's just, it's so individualized. And again, it's the brain colors. And
That is
if you think about yourself, just think about yourself as a gemstone. And you're multifaceted with all the different things you do at home or at work in your community. You're a multifaceted gemstone quality person. And depending on the setting of that gemstone, that's how you respond, because you're different in different settings.
right.
So think about people who have earrings or necklaces or rings or bracelets. They're all set differently, and they can be set with the same gemstone. So I think that's so important. In fact, the village emissaries in Princess Shayna are actually named for gemstones. So
Cool.
yellow citrine and spinel is blue, and Pedparacha is orange, and peridot is green. Because
I love Pedparacha.
Oh yeah, and they love saying it. And then they ask, "Is it really a word?" I said, "Yes, it's really an orange gemstone."
And what's really funny? I don't like orange. I am not a fan. I mean, the color as a color, not too many oranges that I really like. But a Pedparacha, oh my gosh. I would wear one if you could find one anymore.
Well, maybe you'd also like to be on my porch and see the Baltimore Orioles that are still coming in their orange dish filled with jelly, and they're still here.
Yeah, I don't really care about the birds.
I like
I
birds.
love birds.
Yeah. You're right. The boo boo, boo 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 boo.
No,
That was perfect.
I don't like what the birds leave behind. I'd rather they stay at your house.
But both your comments from Melanie and John,
Right.
were
So
just
funny.
right on. And then
Straight up shows you who the outsider is here.
No, you're just a different facet of the brain colors.
Absolutely.
And that's what's so important. You were just another facet. And I think if we can just learn, I would really like to make every politician in this country take their brain color, and then every politician in the world.
Oh, no, please. You can't.
I just think
Just knowing that information would be helpful.
But even in your community, you watch things on the news, you see people standing up and talking to the people in their communities and the village people who have been elected to a board. And you want to say, if you just knew the brain colors, you could listen to those people differently.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'd like all of these people. I did a program for a client in South Africa. And the people who came to the program were not English speakers. And so they converted the program and they did the program. And to close out their last day, they all came dressed in some way in their colors.
Oh, wow.
It blew me away, whether it was something wrapped around their head or the women's dresses or a sash. It was so beautiful to see. So no matter where you live, everybody can understand this. And that's what's so wonderful, that it's so easy to translate to people. And sometimes that's the hardest thing for people getting along, because they go, "Oh, are they talking about me? I don't understand what they're saying in German. Is that what they're saying about me? Saying that about me in Spanish or Italian?" And so if people would understand the language, they would know they're just talking, just like you and me.
Mm-hmm. One quick question before we wrap up. Do different cultures have different predominant colors in that culture?
Yes, I write about that in the book. So,
Okay. All right. I should go read the book.
Well, it's so interesting because you look at the Germans and they have all the rules of how to do things and how to do it the right way, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've got the entrepreneurial orange Americans. They're going to do their own thing, right?
I can see that.
Right. And then you've got the Asian people, and you look at what they've done with education and how they teach their children and what they want them to do. And then you look at the blue people, you look at the French, and let's just go to the cafe. Let's talk.
Let's talk. Yeah.
Yeah. So you see that in different cultures. But then again, we have a very dear friend who's was born in Costa Rica, and she's married to our friend who's German. That's a very interesting marriage.
Mm.
Yeah. Very
Cool.
interesting. So I think it crosses all borders, John.
Mhm.
Love it to cross all kinds of borders. I have a wonderful client in Chile. That's just wonderful. And people from Malaysia are the second group of people that always read my blog from Malaysia. But
Interesting.
the
Yeah.
book was printed in traditional Chinese as well as in Portuguese. And not because my daughter-in-law is Brazilian, but that it makes it so interesting that people can learn this and learn about other people. It's grand.
Yep. Yeah. Well,
It's,
I'm looking forward to it.
I was in a workshop with Douglas Frazier, who teaches color coaching, and his connection to color and hierarchy of the colors, of course, is different. But he was speaking the other night about universal languages, and that food is a universal language, sports are a universal language, and that color
And
is a universal language. And what's interesting to me is, in the energy work world, we assign chakra colors, right? The Roy G. Biv is an organizational tool for chakra colors. So we have that. And then we have Jugal's way of interpreting the colors. Huge pink, self-care, makes total sense to me. And now this new way, I think that what it speaks to me is that colors themselves are as diverse as the people that we are using them to label. And by I mean label in a good way, of course, but that there's all different blues, and there are all different greens, they're all different.
like
and
a crayon box, absolutely a crayon box, right?
Yep, and the big one, not the 8 or whatever, the big box.
Right, the 64.
All different. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Crayolas though. Gotta be Crayolas. Anyway, wow. How amazing was this? So I think, Sheila, it would be really great if we take a little time and think of another way for you to come back, and maybe we can do some fun things. Maybe we can get some other people to come on, and
Sure.
we'll get them to have a conversation. Just maybe you can sort of help them with how to adjust their colors, or I don't know, something. We'll come up with something.
I think we can be green and think about it.
There you go. I'm really. There are days I grow weary of that green, if you want to know the truth.
You're always processing. But then again, the blue people, Melanie and John and I, will tell you that our emotions can exhaust us sometimes. That's why I've worked, right, Melanie?
So exhausting.
Right. So work at being green, because our blue just it takes over, and it's you have to make a healthy decision and limiting your blue. And as you get older, Melanie, trust me, it gets better. It's interesting to watch, because I think about how I was in the different decades of my life and see how different I am from then to now.
But all that time that I have to sit and plan out a phone call before I make it, or like when I used to leave a message on my voicemail when I had my office, where I would have to sit down and write that out, or I would be redoing it like 25 times. That's exhausting. That's just exhausting.
I have done the same. I've done exactly the same thing.
I mean, I just love. So I'm going to give one more, and then we'll wrap up, because we've gone, over like we thought we would. Is I encounter so many people in my work that are trying to figure out what makes them tick. And I am so happy and thrilled to have another tool that I can turn them on to say, okay, well, astrology doesn't resonate with you, then let's take a look at this and see. Now go find out what color is your brain, and
Go from
see if
there.
that helps you. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
just
Right.
because
And
so
color,
many struggling people.
color is your greatest stimulant. It's very powerful. You look at the people who decide they want a red car. Boy, you notice the red car.
Mhm.
Oh, I am here to tell you, I had a blue car. And I bought the blue car because I wanted my car to stand out in the parking lot. And the minute I bought that blue car, everywhere I turned, I saw blue cars.
Yeah.
So I still have the blue car. We didn't trade it in, but we went and got a new car, Rogue, because Rogue, like Rogue, but red. I have never seen so many red cars in my entire life. Like it is just unbelievable how many red cars I see.
Now you are more. Now you're aware of that because it's something significant in your life.
Exactly.
Right. And so
Exactly.
for me, I used to be a redhead. My mother was a redhead. My grandmother was a redhead. So I come from a family of redheads. And also, when you were a kid, you were the kid who was always noticed in school.
Mhm.
You
Oh
were
yeah, because you stood
doing
out.
something different. Right. Exactly. It is. And I also found that if I did a program or people called me, so you were the redheaded speaker at that conference, right?
Like, well,
Yeah. So I think it's so interesting because color is very powerful. It's a great stimulant for people to be aware. You know that when you have a red car, that the police are going to notice you a little different than if you're a white or black car. So it just depends on. It makes me think of the pots on my deck for the hummingbirds. We have it attracts the hummingbirds. They see the red. They're attracted to the feeder, but boy, they love the natural flowers. It's remarkable.
Oh
Yeah,
yes,
interesting.
I
absolutely.
think, we know that even the clothes that we pick out. You see some people and how they're dressed. They want to be noticed. Those orange people,
Mhm.
you see lots of orange people, how they're noticed. We've been watching the trials for the Olympics, which has been phenomenal. They are the most beautiful young men and young women. These athletes are gorgeous. It's interesting to see how some of them dress. You can tell their brain color just by what they're wearing, and they're in these Olympic trials. Really fascinating. Really fascinating. So what happens is it enters your life. Well, I've been doing it for so long, over 30 years, that it's part of my speech. My family talks it. My friends talk it. We all. It's this like a little shorthand.
Yeah.
Quick and easy.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yep. I'm
It's
going to make it part of
amazing.
mine.
Great.
And Coventina listens. She is a very, very loyal listener. She's blue, she says. So thank you again, Coventina, for listening. We love that you stick around.
That's lovely.
Sheila, you will have to come back and talk with us again because this was great fun.
My pleasure.
Now, this is the Enlightenment Exchange, and if you have not yet done it, please reach over and hit that subscribe button. They're climbing a little bit. We want to get to 100 because, that would be fantastic. Anyway, thank you all so much. Melanie, John, great to see you.
Yep. Thank you.
Sheila, thank you so much. And thank you, listeners, and we will see you next week. And we'll tell you what that's going to be about when the time comes.
And enjoy the 4th of July tomorrow, even if you.
Oh, yes. If you're in the U.S., enjoy the 4th of July.
Bye,
Thank you so
everybody.
much.
Thank you, Sheila.
My pleasure.